And so I'm going to tell you about it. A number of years ago, I became aware of the Fujitsu line of scanners, which do a very quick job of scanning in data. And we started doing this primarily for missionaries, not realizing that this would come full circle like this, where I would take books and, if you had books in your library, cut the spine off. And you can do this just by laying a metal ruler down on it and then going along it with a razor blade or whatever. We also have a guillotine cutter at the school that'll do this in like one shot. Take a book and feed it through the scanner. It does like 80 pages a minute, double-sided, like 40 sheets or 80 sides of the page a minute. And when it comes out of this, it's actually already OCR'd. It's, I'll explain what that means. This is a brand new one. This was just introduced this year. This is the Fujitsu SnapScan IX500. The scanner I used for the missionary project was about $1,300 or so. This one here retails for $500. You can get it for $420 at places like Newegg or on Amazon. And you probably need one. I mean, I know not everybody has that in their budget. Here's one of the cool things about it. I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in here, and I'm just putting in a bunch of different pieces of paper and so on, and it's an experiment. We'll see how it works. I've got it connected to my computer, and when I push the button here, all of those went through. It recognized that there are actually 5 pages. You can see that. Here's the first one, and it's showing me a representation of it. I can hit the save button. And if I go out to that folder now on my computer, I've got a folder called Incoming. You know what? I just upgraded this computer, and of course, it isn't there. There it is, Scan Incoming. So today, that's the document I just scanned. So my apologies for the material I chose, but okay, here's our missions pledge form. Here's the back and front of my wife's card. Back and front of our card for going as missionaries to Bandung. The cool thing about this is now completely OCR'd. I can search for any word in here. I can search for the word Bandung. And it says it didn't find it. What it didn't do is turn the stuff upright. That's probably what went wrong with that. It's a setting issue. So, you could see that if you've got paper all over the place, like receipts and stuff like that, the cool thing about this is I can feed all my Costco receipts through there. It'll not only turn them into an electronic file, a PDF, but it'll turn it into a searchable PDF file. So 6 months down the road, something goes wrong with the rain jacket I bought, I can search for rain jacket and it'll find it. I've actually done that. But here's where I use it for stuff like this. We're going to an area of the world where we can't carry our libraries with us. Can't afford to, as well as there are issues with getting them in. So what I can do is I'm just going to take a few pages of this book, hit the button here, and let's flip that up to catch that. It's going through pretty quickly. Yes?
How many DPI are you scanning at?
I'm actually scanning this at 400 DPI, maybe at 600. But you've got all sorts of settings. If we, I don't know if it'll let me do that. It won't let me do it right now because it's in process. You can set it for whatever you want. I think I have it set, actually I have it set, I think, for 600 DPI on black and white and 400 on color, and it does that automatically. It'll do color and so on, recognition automatically. So we've got that document. Now I hit the save button. Let's go back to that same folder and have a look at that. That's the one we just did. So I have this book like this, and let's see. Okay, it is working now. And I'm sorry that we've got a bit of a fuzzy image on the screen so you can't see it. I can look for any word. That's now completely recognizable. It's been searched. Here are all the pages in this document in which the word church appears. Oh, and by the way, this is also a wireless scanner. I don't have to have a wire between it and my computer, and it also scans to your Android or iOS device. So I can actually, it's a free app. I can walk up to it with my iPad, my iPhone, push a button on the iPhone, and what's in there will scan to it, recognized, etc., etc. It'll scan directly into Evernote. It'll scan into here. It'll, whatever. The cool thing for me is, and because of the resolution on the screen, this may not really be perfectly clear to you, but after I've scanned a book in, just to give you an idea on relative size, this book as scanned was 20.7 megabytes. After I processed it in Adobe Acrobat Pro and did some other work on it, a book of 284 pages ended up as 4.3 megabytes. In other words, on my iPad, I can easily carry a library like that of 3,000-4,000 volumes on the smallest iPad. And it's completely searchable. And also what's been done to the text is interesting because it'll scale. I mean, if you're familiar with the old school scanning, you ended up with very rasterized images, the jaggy edges. This here, I can read it perfectly, whether I'm working on my iPhone, my iPad, or whatever device. And if I print out a page once I've scanned it in, it's like a photocopy. Or in some cases better than the photocopy, because this app also straightens pages. If you put them in sideways, it'll make them upright and do other stuff. That's cool. I don't know if you noticed, I didn't have to tell it how big the pages were. It automatically figured all that out. So this is a wonderful, wonderful tool. Any questions on that? You can probably come up with a lot of other things you can do with it. For me, this is huge. I had a friend who was traveling in Asia Pacific to a number of different islands and had about 50 pounds of books along. She couldn't take them on most of the planes, and in a lot of places she would have had trouble with them. She FedExed their books to me. I cut the spine off. The next day she had them all in a Dropbox that easily fit on a small thumb drive. But she had it on her computer, a thumb drive, and a backup CD in different pieces of luggage. So number one, she couldn't lose her books. And number two, she had access to them in a durable and useful way. And I also like the fact that I can search now for any word. Any textbook I use in class, I walk into class with it, with my iPad and that book on there. If somebody asks a question, I can search and give them the answer to what they were looking for in just a couple of seconds. Kind of a nice resource to have.
I'm just curious if you can print from that as well. Does it actually print?
This doesn't print, it just scans. And by the way, you may be able to use your photocopier in the church office, or if you have access to that. Many of them now have scan to PDF functions and so on. Not quite as fast, and it doesn't do some of the convenience stuff that this one does, but still, this is like $420 right now on the websites.
Do you have to have a specific program for it to scan into, or can you specify
Nope.
what you want it to scan
No,
into?
as a matter of fact, let me see if we've got that settings. Here's the quick menu. Apply. Go back here. This is software that comes with it. Oh, let me see. I think what I need to do now is hit the scan button. We'll just put in a page and see what happens.
Hey Wally, when you scan a page like that, does it scan front and back?
Front and back, and if the back is blank, it ignores it, or it doesn't if you tell it not to ignore it. So in this case, here are my options. This is the software that came with the scanner, free. I can scan it to a folder, scan it to email, scan to print, make it a searchable thing, send it to cards. Like if it comes with software, you can scan in your whole stack of business cards and it turns them into an electronic series of business cards. Scan to your mobile device, scan to Dropbox, Evernote, to Google Docs, Salesforce SugarSync. I can also scan to Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, or to iPhoto.
And then is it editable?
Yes, it's editable, and if you scan, for instance, a document into Excel, it's put into cells.
That's awesome.
I could figure out a few ways to use that, I'm pretty sure. So, I think that this is a very useful tool, and...
Are you selling those today? Do they come with knives or?
Yeah, no, but wait, there's more. No.
I have one more question.
Absolutely.
Does it read like handwriting as well? So
It will turn the handwriting into an image on the screen, and Evernote and some other software there actually will convert handwriting into searchable text.
Okay, so you can, so like if there was a written document that
Yes.
came in, then you could search
You
through
would
that
s-
written document?
You would send it to Evernote, and if you've, I think it's Evernote Premium, which is not expensive. There are other pieces of software that'll do the same, but there are ways. We did this actually with some handwritten journals from my wife's grandma, fed them through, and it did a pretty good job of turning them into text, saving us a lot of transcription time and so on. Pretty cool. This next thing, I'm sorry, this is kind of annoying in a way, but when I was over in Asia this summer, I discovered that the rest of the world, everybody except the US and Canada, has access to Epson tank printers. Now, if you're familiar with inkjet printers, you will pay way, way more for ink than you do for the printer. Some of the stats in a small business environment, an inkjet printer that you got for $200 or $300, you'll pay about $1,000 or a couple of thousand a year for the inkjet cartridges to do what you need to do. In other parts of the world, they have the tank printer. Let's see if I hyperlink that. Why is that not coming up? Don't want to update the field. Open the hyperlink. Let's do it that way. Okay, looks like a regular Epson printer, except at the side it has tanks that you refill from a bottle. Oh, there we go. It's coming. Okay, here's one of these. This little thing here at the side is a tank. You can buy an ink cartridge or ink bottle from Epson overseas for about $7. The cost per page to print with this in black and white is .02 cents. Like 50 pages for a penny for ink cost. And color is like about half a cent. This annoys me. Because here what you're going to pay for any printer that's capable of doing that is way, 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 way more per page. Now, we were doing some research on this, and we found a site just across the border in California that was importing these from Mexico, and they were 120 volt. If you get them in other parts of the world, they run on 240. And so if I find a source for this again, it will be in this document. Okay? So if you're interested, and by the way, these printers are not expensive. They're like 150, 200 bucks. The one I had on the screen that had the, there we go, that's the one I want. That one there was about 300 bucks to buy. That's an all-in-one. That's scanner, fax, automatic document feeder and stuff like that. And it cost fractions of a penny per page, which, yeah. I use some software called Book Collector to organize my collection. Lots of different ways of doing it. If you've got a big library, this is a great way to go. These are just the books I'm scanning in right now. Let me go to my regular thing. So this is my library here. It's got the listing of books. If I needed to find a book on atonement, I could type in the word atonement here. And this is the list of all the books that have atonement listed either in the subject, in the title, or whatever. I can look on here. I see what the cover of it looks like. I can read a review of it and stuff like that. Oh, and one of the cool things about this is, somewhere here I have my iPhone. Here it is. I've got an app that runs on here that was like a couple of dollars. To put a book into this library, all I do, where's the back cover? Barcode on the back, point the book at the back of this, push the scan button, and it puts it into this automatically. I didn't have to enter any of the name, author, title, any of that stuff. So if you've got a large library and you'd like to keep track of stuff, you can walk through your library, pick up book after book, take a picture of the back cover, and it'll automatically just shoot into here. And I was helping a library of a seminary in Singapore. They were upgrading their software, and they were looking at some new software. It was about, I think, it was cheap library software. It was in the $50,000-$70,000 range. $50,000 to $70,000 to buy, and they were going to charge them about $7,000 to convert their data to it. I said, why don't you buy this, because it will output standard files which you can then put into that. That'll save you the $7,000. This software is $50 if you buy the Pro version. They bought it, and then I showed them that this actually has a loan manager in it. Do you have a problem when somebody asks you for a book and you loan it out and you never get it back? Yeah, actually this will let you keep track of who you loaned the book to, send you reminders when it's time to ask for it back and so on. They are using this software because it also has a web component. You can publish your catalog on the web for others to see what you've got. And so they are using this now. There are a bunch of libraries actually around the world after they used it. Other libraries our missionaries in the Bahamas are using it, or Bermuda are using it as their library software as well. So it's pretty capable, pretty cool stuff. Evernote, fabulous software. Who here is using Evernote? Okay, it's free. It runs on just about anything under the sun, and it's a really good way of organizing ideas and so on. One of the things Evernote does, which for me was really huge, was that you can now take a book. Okay, so here, for instance, here's a notebook that has receipts in it. As I get receipts at home, I just scan them into this. They're fully searchable, and so if I want to find, a receipt related to something, I can just search for that word and find it. But see here, you've got this little symbol up in the corner of that thing. This is my Bible and Theology notebook. I am sharing it, and what this does is it just gives me a link. If I publish that link, anybody who has that link can go in. I can also make it a private link. I can do it more privately and so on. So I can share the information in there, which is great. I can go in here and see, okay, 4 simple principles to determine ancient historical reliability, manuscript evidence for the Bible, why we can trust the Bible, Jesus and the eyewitnesses. You sense a theme here. Does archaeology confirm or deny the claims of the Bible? So I've got all sorts of stuff in here. Let's see. Somebody asked me about God as moral monster. Let's see if I have anything on that. Yeah, there we go. I've got 6 articles that relate to the issue of monsters, problem of evil and God's moral character. Is God a moral monster? A review of the book, The Accusation of God as Moral Monster. So these are resources that you've got that I've collected that are available to you through Evernote. I can put stuff into Evernote really super easily. If I'm looking at something on a website, for instance, here's Valley Assembly. I'd like to add them to my Evernote feed, except that right now I'm in Firefox. Let's do this in Chrome instead. So I'm going to go here, and I want to add them to my Evernote feed. All I need to do is click on this link right here, a little applet, and that clips that whole thing, and it's going to go into the church info thing. I'll edit this later on, but I hit save. I now have that website as an Evernote. One of the reasons why this is important is websites come and go. And so you're looking at some information that was excellent, but 3 weeks later you go there and it's either changed and become less useful or it's gone. Once you've clicked it in here, it's in here, and you can then use it. If I go to Evernote now and I hit refresh, and remove that. And go to all notes. It's refreshing, and there we go. There's the clipping on Valley Assembly of God. This is how it assembled it in there. Some of the stuff is right away visible, some of it isn't, but I've got a hyperlink in there to actually go there. So Evernote is a very cool way of assembling your stuff and keeping track of it. Back to my document. Some audio recorders. This one is very inexpensive. I find it superb to use in the classroom. This is a Zoom H1. It just runs off a couple of AA batteries. One of the things that makes it superb is that when I plug it into my computer, it becomes an audio device, very high quality audio device. Cost on this is like $100 or less. But it'll record with, just using one AA battery. I know it's like 25 hours or something like that. Has a whole bunch of settings. It can record at basically CD quality or beyond, WAV files and stuff like that. And it's great for mounting on your camcorder or using it attached to other devices and so on. And if you're going to do podcasting and stuff like this, this works really, really well without breaking the bank as a multifunctional tool. I like the Olympus WS series. They're really small. I've got one actually in that other computer case that just for making quick memos and stuff like that and then transferring them easily. If you're into music, I've got a link to a couple of music page turners for the iPad. What's that? Instead of your musicians, as they're playing on Sunday, having to flip pages. As a bassist, it was really awkward. Like, I cut up my sheets of sheet music and then tape them together and try to kind of like manually scroll them, have two music stands and stuff like that. With this, you just got a foot pedal, you tap it and it flips the page for you. Cool. And if you need sheet music, Music Notes is a link for that. Also, if you are doing stuff where you're recording stuff for the screen, Prompterus and uPrompter Pro and ProPrompter work actually quite well for capture. Let me demonstrate this for you. My wife and I, as we were doing the missions training, we used this software to record a video. And so I'm going to put on, yes. The lovely thing is I've just upgraded this to the latest version. Now the question is, where is it actually on this? So I need to do a search, don't I? And how do I do a search on the newest version? Slide down, yeah, but that's brought me my notifications instead.
Slide down on the home screen.
Slide down on the home screen.
Not from the top.
Not from the very top.
Oh, middle of the screen. Ah, there we
Stand on
go.
1 foot.
Stand on 1 foot, hold your tongue this way. There we go. And all right, let's, I'm assembling too much stuff here. Now, you can never have too much technology. These aren't toys, I tell my wife. These are tools, and they're needed for the doing of ministry. That's the theory.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, I'll give you that script. It's available for... Okay, so there's Prompterus, and what I'm going to do here is go there. All right, so this is our Bandung presentation, and you can set any amount of countdown time, and you can also speed this up and slow it down with the orange buttons there on the bottom, and it just scrolls it on the screen for you so that you've got a script to be reading, and it also sets your pacing because you can determine how long you want this to take to scroll through. So that if you're aiming for a target, I need to have a 90-second script. You can do that. There's also this. There are a number of websites that tell you how to actually make your own teleprompter set up, with the half-silvered mirror in front of the camera lens, so that as you're recording that, you're actually physically looking into the lens and the words are scrolling by. You too could look like a politician. So there you go. Thank you. I see somebody is coming up to help me deal with my technology glut. So, all right. We'll put some of this stuff on other pages or on this other surface here to keep it from creating a mess. And also to keep from the precipitous descent of the iPad. I mentioned I read a lot of blogs. I use Reader, R-E-E-D-E-R, on iOS devices. There are other really good ones. Feedly is a free reader that works on your Mac or PC and stuff like that. I've published in the past, and I think they're available through my Evernote feed. If I'll update this. If you want to know which church blogs I'm following, which ones I'm reading, and so on, I can publish my feed for you too, so that you have access to that. Same for the technology blogs. Or you can just look at what I'm doing on Evernote and see, what I filtered down through that. But if you really want to keep track of what's happening in various worlds today, the best way of doing that is via blogs. That's where the most up-to-date and most responsive information is. And so doing a blog read is a good thing. I do like Logos software. I wish it were cheaper. You've got a link there for how to get at it. Where's my Logos? Right there. Logos software is very, very nice. I have a little bit of an advantage here that one of my first TAs is now married to the president of the company. So I did get to get some of the software free at that time, and since then I've paid for it. But it's a great way to do Bible study, as well as have a library where you are able to do all sorts of research. So here I'm reading a commentary. This is the Pastoral Epistles in the New International Greek Textual Commentary Series. Here's the text of the NIV on that same passage. The newest version of the NIV, the King James, New American Standard, English Standard Version, and the NRSV. This is kind of like the collection of the English Bibles. I'll read through when I'm looking at something if I'm doing research. And then, of course, there's the Greek text. What's cool about this is, for instance, let me show you how you could do some research. Okay, let me show you a real-life passage, which I think is kind of interesting. 1 Corinthians 14, we'll start with verse 34. Something I've done a little bit of work on. Oh, and for some reason we don't have that in a link set. So let me change that link set to this. So when we go 1 Corinthians 14, verse 34, all of these versions should now change to that. There we go. There's a very interesting word in here that is translated a specific way in English that may have a different meaning. It's the word ask. What do you think of when you hear the word ask? A question. What time is it? When is the session over? What am I going to eat for lunch? Those sorts of things. Well, let's right-click on that. And what this does is it tells me that the dictionary form of the word that underlies this word ask in Greek is peritao. And there's a bunch of other information on there. I'm going to do a Bible word study on that. And, okay, here's the lemma form, and if I want to look it up in a dictionary, I can find it in BDAG, for instance, to ask for low, NIDA has it, ask for interrogate, and so on. Here, in the NIV, this is the way the word is translated. It is translated, let's see, it's used 56 times. Of those, 45 times translated as ask, asked, or asking. 6 times. It's translated this way 33 times in total, but 6 times in the NIV of the 56 times it's used. The Greek word is used. It's translated as question, question, or question. However, when we go back to this word, you'll notice something about the context of the question. A man with a shriveled hand was there. Looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, they asked him, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" Is that a question of the same flavor of, "What time is it?" No, it's a little bit more intense than that. The Pharisees and Sadducees came to Jesus and tested him by asking him to show them a sign from heaven. Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor. The governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Yes, it is, as you say." You'll notice that this is a more intense word than just asking for information. And so probably, if we're going to correctly understand the context of that word ask, it means more than just asking a question of your husband. So that might change the way we would interpret this and understand it. I, in fact, think that what is being forbidden here is, although just a few verses earlier, Paul gave the instruction that when somebody prophesies in church, everybody else must judge what's going on. In this verse, he's saying that the wives should not publicly judge their husbands' prophecies. Anybody got any ideas on why that might be a bad idea? I'll say, but the cognate is the same. Husbands, you should not, in the church service, say, "Wait a second, I think you're completely wrong," and that would just be a bad thing to do. So Logos software does a whole lot of cool stuff. The next 2 pieces of software, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with Dropbox. If you aren't, you want to add it to your arsenal. Something else that's good is SugarSync. Dropbox has updated some of its stuff, so it will do some of the things that SugarSync was able to do that Dropbox couldn't before. Both of them are excellent. This solved a huge, huge problem for me. The problem is, my academic notes, the stuff I keep track of that I'm going to teach in class, is gold. I mean, if I were to lose that, I would be very, very sad. I'd be quite despondent. So how do I back it up? Well, I used to take a jump drive, stick it in here. I had software that I would back it up to the jump drive, then I take it to another computer and synchronize it from the jump drive to that computer, etc., etc. The only problem was, if I'm editing a file on multiple computers, which is the most correct version and so on, it was a mess. SugarSync, free, gives you 5 gigabytes right off the top, allows you to designate any folder on your computer to be synchronized to the cloud, and then get that on any other computer. I run it on my iPad, I run it on my iPhone, I run it on my computers. I use a tablet PC, an IBM Lenovo tablet PC on which I can write on the screen in the classroom, so I can make notes on the screen like a whiteboard, smartboard style. So I'm in the PC world, I'm in the Mac world, etc., etc. All of those devices run SugarSync. If I'm teaching something in the classroom and I see a typographical error in my notes, or a student asks a question that is just, boy, I need to put that in there because that is brilliant, I can make that notation in my on-screen thing on my iPad. When I get back to the classroom, that's already on all my other computers. So it's synchronized over the cloud. And here's something else. I think Dropbox does this as well, but SugarSync does this. It keeps track of the last 5 versions of what you've done. Have you ever had the situation where you were typing something and you made a change that you thought was a good change, and you hit the save button, and then afterwards, oh no, I really wanted what I had before? And in fact, I had somebody writing me this week at school, one of the other professors, they had overwritten a file, and they were absolutely despondent. I said, well, do you use Dropbox or SugarSync? They said, yeah. I said, I'll go on the website and hit versions, and it'll show you the last 5 versions of the file. And so then you can recover the previous version of it, and that is very, very nice. Evernote, we've already talked about that. Prezi is an alternative way of doing like a PowerPoint or Keynote type presentation. Some people don't like it because it makes them motion sick. Anybody here used Prezi? Okay, a couple of you. The ones who've used it know. It's free, and it allows you to do some really cool things. I'd like you to be aware of it and check it out. Your ministry is not going to go in the tank just because you're not using Prezi, but it's an interesting resource, yes.
Being a cloud program, can you bring it into a presentation software?
Prezi?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually doing some stuff with that. But really, Prezi works best as Prezi. They do now have, and if you're an educator or you're taking classes somewhere, so you've got an EDU mail account, you can get the higher levels of Prezi for free. Or you can also pay, if you're going to use this an awful lot, and it's not expensive, but you can pay, and what that lets you do is run Prezi natively on your device, not in the cloud. And so then after that, you can save it as a PDF file, and you'll be able to, scale it and do stuff like that.
Thanks.
But Prezi is kind of a bit more of a one-trick pony in that it does presentations in a different way, a kind of an eye-catching way, and it does it quite well. Creation Swap, you know what, I need to add some more to this. This is one site for getting art and media and so on. I've got a list of others. I'll add some more to this so that you've got that. Trello and Moxtra are project management and collaboration websites. Anybody here using either of them, Trello or Moxtra? Okay, one. I actually found out about this from another pastor when I was doing a presentation like this. And are you finding it useful for you, or?
It works sometimes very well. I don't use all that much anymore.
Okay. Okay. So it's a tool that lets you have a whole bunch of people, get work assigned to them and put how they're doing on it and so on. It's kind of like the working side of the staff community tool, that sort of a deal. Social media, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Vine, Google+, blogs. Enthuse.me is an interesting one. This has just come out fairly recently, and if you're interested in getting a page, I'd hop on it fairly quickly because you'll still be able to get titles that fit you. Like I was able to get Kowalski and Kowalskis on it pretty easily, and you can't get that on, for instance, Facebook or whatever. But it's like a one-page, sort of a resume thing, but you can do other stuff with it, and very, very simple to set up. The more places you're represented, okay, you need to make sure you're doing at least one of the social media things really well. Unless you've got somebody on your staff, either somebody who does this because they just love doing it, and they're going to take care of your Twitter feed and your Facebook account for you, and whether you've got a really large church with a big staff or a small church, there are probably some people in your church that are good at this and would love to do it, and you need to set them free to do it. You may want to just choose one thing where you have your main presence, and we can talk about the relative virtues of Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. But, at this point in time, more people are coming to churches because they've seen you somehow through a web search, certainly than by looking you up in the yellow pages. If that's still around. I haven't had yellow pages delivered to our house for a while. I think maybe they're finally gone, But Google searches and stuff like that, and how do you get a Google presence? Well, part of it is participation in social media. WhatsApp. This is something that is a really big deal in some other parts of the world. It's an app that kind of, well, if you are having to pay for texting and that sort of a thing, it kind of aggregates that and lets you get your text messages through your email, through your phone number and stuff like that. They've just made it a free app, but they're going to be charging is it $1 a month or something like that But that could be way, way, way cheaper than texting. And one of the powerful things about it is it can be attached to different phone numbers. And so, for instance, if your church does a lot in missions and you end up going to Mexico quite often, you have a Mexican SIM card that you put into your phone. You could have it so that the text messages that people are sending you still come to your phone there through WhatsApp without you having to tell people, okay, now you're going to have to use a different number for me. So it helps in the whole communication thing. Skype, FaceTime, you're probably familiar with all of those. My boys, who are very, very, very techy, perhaps more so than I am, they're big, big fans of Google Hangouts. And one of the big reasons for liking Google Hangouts, it enables you to do some things that Skype is now allowing you to do, like to have multi-way conversations, but the big thing is it uses way less bandwidth. What do I mean? With Skype, you'll often find the picture juddering and the audio breaking up and stuff like that. And especially for those of you who've got kids or members of your church or missionaries with whom you're trying to communicate in other parts of the world where their internet isn't as good as the one you've got, with Google Hangouts you can adjust how much bandwidth, how much internet pipe you need, and it'll let you achieve communication where you won't on Skype. Some of the tests my sons have done, and Skype is aware of this, so they're trying to optimize it. It's a bit of a horse race where they nose ahead of each other. But last time I checked, Google Hangouts used about 1/10 as much bandwidth as Skype to get you a good picture. So it's worth knowing about. I've told some of my friends who've got children in parts of the world where the only way they can communicate is through something like Skype. And they were very grateful afterwards for that. So, in a corporate setting, GoToMeeting is very, very much appreciated by a lot of people. A lot of pastors of bigger churches use that. I've got a bunch of information in my Evernote feed, so if you, in my Evernote feed, look for GoToMeeting, you'll see that. DVD duping, I should have talked with you about this. I've built in the past DVD duplicators. Is anybody still doing that, using DVDs and CDs and stuff like that, or is everybody just posting stuff on the web? I built a duper that lets you do 6 or 7 DVDs at once from one blank, you know, if you're handing out DVDs at the end of your church service, or CDs. And you can build these yourself fairly cheaply. And since I'm moving to Indonesia and I'm probably not going to take it along, if that's something you need, talk to me. I can probably get you one real cheap. There are also ways of streaming your church services. I have information in my Evernote feed as well as this, on this. If you do a search on the word streaming, you'll probably find Ustream as well as Livestream. One of the things that's interesting about Livestream is they now have a way for you to put that as a channel on Roku. Anybody here using Roku know what that is? Okay, a few of you. Roku is this little box. It's like an Apple TV. It does some things that Apple TV doesn't do, and Apple TV does some things better than the Roku box. But the Roku box, one of the things a lot of people are doing with it is they're replacing their cable service because it allows them to watch what they want to watch. A lot of churches now are setting up channels on Roku. So you can watch Saddleback, their services, and also save stuff on there, and you can put it up there very cheaply. I think it's basically free. And so if you we're trying to figure out how can I get a live video feed from our church out there for people to watch without investing big, big dollars. Live stream on the Roku might do it for you. I have information in Evernote how to start following up on that. So, ways to save money with that. One other thing I'm going to mention, and there's more information again in my Evernote feed on this. Protecting your hearing. Actually, I'm going to do this here. Okay. All right. One of the problems that we sometimes encounter is music can be a tad loud. Just saying. Now, you can get all sorts of apps out there cheap, and in fact there's one free from Logitech Ultimate Ears that will just put a sound pressure level meter up there. It shows you the dBs of what you're listening to. One of the things this app does, and I'm not sure whether they've got a similar one for the Android, I'm pretty sure they would, but this has an actual dosimeter built into it, and that should be switching there. There we go, there's the dosimeter. The way your ears work, you can have a certain volume of sound for a certain amount per day without doing permanent damage. If it's the louder it is, the less time you need before your ears can recover from that and return to being able to hear without damaging and so on. And this right here is saying what we're doing right now is a safe level for my ears. For our ears, the sound is moderate, similar to conversation. A little bit louder right now, but it's switching between that. Up there in that corner, the projected dose, if we keep doing this all day long, we'll have hit 5% of our allowable dose for the day. We're not damaging our hearing. Okay, if you go to a Seahawks game, you're going to discover that it doesn't take more than a couple of minutes of the max they hit, and your hearing will be damaged, so it will not recover. I mean, each time you do that, you're going to lose more and more. Why? Well, okay, I was about to teach one of my technology classes for the university, and so one of the things I do is I go to, there should be, oh yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was done, so I was slowing down. No, I've got a whole bunch more. I better speed up. I was going to a church that I was told was really loud. In fact, the neighbors had signs up about how loud this church was. And so I went and bought earplugs before I went there and fired up my app. They weren't that bad. They were running about 96 dB, which is loud but not horrific. I went to another church, which will be unnamed, and I was up in the balcony wearing my earplugs. Not one of our churches. They were peaking at 119 and running steadily at about 108 to 110. And they had a lot of little kids right up front in this church. They were damaging their hearing. So this is a good piece of software to just do a reality check. Music does sound better if it's louder. That's how the salesperson in the store sells you stuff, by turning it up just a little bit. 1/10 of a dB, which you don't hear that much, but it just makes that speaker sound better than that other speaker. And sound persons who are trying to get the best sound, they're going to keep turning it up. But you have to balance out between what is good for people and so on. Safety. I'm going to have to really cruise now. Okay. If you've ever done something in a Starbucks, like you're checking your accounts and so on, you need VPN software. Hotspot Shield is a good one. Tunnel Bear is another one. What it does is it gives you a virtual pipe, like a piece of wire between, you can use this, by the way, on your iPhone and iPad as well, and a safe computer. You can set up your own VPN. The other cool thing about Hotspot Shield and Tunnel Bear, by the way, is that you can be in the US, in England, or in Australia, I think, with Hotspot Shield. So if you've always wanted to be able to watch Top Gear on the BBC, if you fire up Hotspot Shield, it will make it look as if your computer were physically in England. And so then you can subscribe to things that you can get there but not here. This is another place that's cool. You're traveling in Europe and you want to buy something on the iTunes store or whatever, or on Amazon. Can't buy it there, they won't let you. Fire up Hotspot Shield, you're all of a sudden in the US. Your computer is physically located in the US. And you're safe in your computing. Other people in the coffee shop can't watch what you're doing on your computer. It's protected. very important. I use some software called LastPass. When I log into a website, let me choose a website. I'm going to go to our website and control it, like do the administration of it, log in. That logged me in automatically. What it is this little button right here. As you're visiting various websites, what it'll let you do is save that site onto your computer, save your ID and your password. It'll also generate a different password for each site you go to. Now, that would be incredibly awkward trying to remember. That's why many people have like one password for all the websites they visit. The only problem is when one of those websites gets hacked, all of your data is in jeopardy. This will create a new password for every single website, if you like, and then automatically log you in from your PC, your Mac, your iPad, iPhone, whatever. There are other options out there. KeepPass is good and stuff like that. I just happen to use and really like LastPass. Antivirus software, these are all free. Microsoft is, and they're linked to get that. These are the ones I use if I'm on a PC. If you're on a Mac, you don't need it, but Sophos antivirus is available. The reason why I use it is I sometimes download stuff for PC users, and then I like to check whether it's got viruses before I pass it on to them. So that's why I've got antivirus software on my Mac.
Have you ever used MacKeeper?
I have.
And what's your thought on it?
Decent. Yeah, I mean, eventually you just, a decision on which one you like best. And Sophos has done a really good job for me, has a really good reputation, but there are others out there. Have you liked that? Have you checked?
So far, I've liked it. Of course, I haven't had any virus problems, but
Cool. I'll maybe add it to the list. That'd be good. Here's just some miscellaneous fun stuff. Vortex Box, very cool software that lets you take an old PC and set it up. This is just automatically, it installs itself and so on. If you're trying to turn your CD and DVD collection into electronic files that you can watch from any computer in the house, this box will then do it for you, free. You just take an old PC, it can be the oldest PC you've got, as long as it's got a CD or a DVD drive on it. After that, and you don't need then a monitor and keyboard attached to it once it's installed, you can just stick a CD into the tray, shut the tray. It'll automatically go out to the internet, find out what the cover looks like, what the title track listing is and all that stuff, put it in there, and create the files for you that you can then listen to and play on your Plex or Roku or Apple TV, so on.
What was that? I missed it.
It's Vortex Box. That's the Vortex Box one. And if you go there and hit downloads, it'll just give you a file, which if you burn it onto a CD, when you stick it into a computer, so use this carefully, when you stick it into a computer, it will automatically convert that computer into a Vortex Box that'll automatically burn CDs and DVDs for you. It'll turn them into electronic files that you can watch from anywhere. I can actually watch movies on this that are on my computer at home using Plex. So, it's cool stuff for the geeks.
So, okay, you have it from the Vortex Box. How are you getting it to your other?
It automatically creates a NAS, a network attached storage that it goes on your network, and then caution text speed coming up. It's got a built-in DLNA server, a Squeezebox server, a Plex. It speaks so many languages that it's just ridiculous. And so it automates the whole process. By the way, even though I've got this in the miscellaneous and fun section, you can use this in a church as well. If you've got video feed stuff that you want to make available throughout the church for people to watch, you could have, like if you're using the Pneuma videos for some reason, or you've got a teaching series that you want to make available and you don't want to have a DVD drive in the room, you could make this available through that and then play it off a Roku box, an Apple TV, or any laptop computer very easily. Cool stuff. Speaking of videos and so on, I'm sure many of you have this already in your toolbox. Keep Vid is a very cool little thing. Okay, there we go. So I'm on YouTube and I want to capture a video. What shall we capture? The battle at Kruger. Always fun to watch animals doing their thing. So I've got this video playing and so on, but I'd like to put it on my computer because I'm actually going to insert it into a PowerPoint or something like that. If I just go up here and click on Keep It, which is free from the Keep Vid site. Okay, an error occurred. Oh, there it is. I can click on any of these links and I can download it in a bunch of different resolutions in a different format. You know, FLV, MP4, and so on. And they'll put it on my computer, at which point in time, I have it on my computer. So if you wanted to show a video from the pulpit to illustrate something you're teaching, you don't want to, at that point in time, to rely on having your network connection up. You want that video actually on your computer. This lets you capture it and then do with it whatever you want for free and cheap and good. Yeah.
Will it format it as like an MOV file or something for the Mac? So
It'll format it in the formats that whoever published it on YouTube has put it up there in. If you want to convert it, get Handbrake. Handbrake is free, and that's spelled Handbrake. Handbrake is probably the premier software for doing this on Mac and PC, and it lets you take just about any video format and turn it into any other video format. And it does a bunch of other really cool things. So that'll let you turn... I was doing some research on this week because I was thinking about some of the stuff we're going to be discussing. The two best formats for portability between Mac and PC are MOV now. That used to not be the case. And M4V. Those two apparently will play on pretty much any Mac and any PC with a reasonably modern operating system. A bunch of other formats, good luck. So avoid some frustration. Oh man, we're out of time, aren't we? Blackmagic video switcher, very cool. Okay, this is probably more important for a bunch of you. Zacuto is a website that does a lot of work with doing video and so on. They did a test last year, and I've got the link to that video test in 2011 as well as 2012. And what they came up with was that the iPhone 4S, 5, or now the 5S, with a $4 piece of software on it, captured better video, HD video, than a $5,000 Sony FS100. Actually, let me just log in here. Then a Sony FS500, and it equaled a Canon C300, which is a $16,000 piece of camera. The software is called Filmic Pro, and it looks like this. You've got a link to it there. And here we've got it coming up. You can see it. In the bottom, you can see I've got this set for 24p, 24 frames per second. It's doing full 1080p. It's doing 48K AAC audio. It's very high-end stuff. I can change my focus by moving this box to wherever I want. I can be focused here and set my iris for the level of light over there. It actually has a workable zoom. This is a much better zoom than what Apple has built in. Now, we're in a situation, the lights have been turned off there, so it's struggling with low light and stuff like that. But it has, it's got, you can also change white balance on it and stuff like that. By the way, among the jurists in that video test, one of them was a guy called Francis Ford Coppola. You may have heard of him before. So we're not talking about Joe down the street deciding on which camera is shooting the best video. The cameras in that test included everything from the $4 app running on this to an $88,000 Epic Red and Reflex. And this came in like 6% lower than the RFlex and Red. I'm not seriously suggesting get rid of your, $20,000 video cameras, but I'll tell you what, if you weren't shooting video because you didn't think you had gear that was good enough to do it, this gear is good enough to do it. And in fact, in tests, ended up as better than some of that other stuff. Now, for the videographers among us, you like having zebra patterns and stuff like that, but yeah.
Now, what about Android phones?
They've got a Kickstarter on right now to convert their software for the Android. There is other software out there. None of it's gotten the traction and apparently the same quality as this. I can turn up the bit rate on this for those who are into video. I can turn up the bit rate on this so it's capturing a ridiculous amount of data. At that rate, an hour of video will probably be about 50 gigabytes of space. So you need a big iPhone to do it. But if you're shooting a bunch of stuff and then putting it together, you could do it. There's so much other stuff here I'd love to talk with you about. We're out of time. And so you're going to have to email me, and I'm going to have to figure out how to become more efficient in my talking, because I'm zoned. But talk to me, bless you, thanks for being here, and hope this has been